Hello, folks. So let's just give it a couple of minutes. So I'm just setting up some stream stuff just to make sure everything's all right. All right. So great to be back. So today we're going to explore OpenAI APIs and how they work. So I have worked a little bit with LangChain, and I wanted to figure out, what's a better way of doing this. And I was looking at LangChain source code, and I was a little confused. So I decided to kind of like go down and figure out how OpenAI works. So let's see how that works. And if the music is distracting, do let me know. I'll turn it off. Although I don't seem to have anyone on my stream now. That's sad. All right, let's see. I'm just going to put in... Yeah, I think it should be fine. All right, so... Okay. I was looking at the OpenAI API, and looks like the one that they have is primarily chat completion. So let's look at GPT, the chat completions API. They have two APIs. One is the completions API, and then they also have the chat completions API. Oh, I forgot to start recording this. So let me start recording the stream as well. Just give me 1 second. All right. I turned on recording now. So let us see. Let's see what's cooking here. So I'm going to go back. So this is the chat completions API. So they also had a completions API before, but they have marked this as legacy. And this was the one when like OpenAI initially came out. This is the API that they used. They basically, kind of finishes a completion, and that's why it was called completion. It was not question answering, and that's what Chat GPT's API had, right? I mean, so it has the RLHF model, which is the reinforcement learning with human feedback, and it's all in the matter of like you ask a question and then it responds and so on and so forth. So we're going to be exploring this, and I wanted to actually build my own like OpenAI client from scratch, but then I came across the really awesome crate from 64-bit called Async OpenAI, and this pretty much does whatever I needed to do. I mean, this has it's based on the OpenAI's OpenAPI spec, so pretty much it's I guess generated by that, if I'm not mistaken. Could be, but let's find out. So they have the OpenAPI spec, and they have all this stuff. Okay, and then it also has they have exponential backoff and to handle rate limiting by the API server, and so that's all pretty cool, right? Because now you have a working application, so to speak. So and I don't have to write all that code myself, and I just wanted to make sure Yeah, it also has, it's not just GPT and chat completion. They also have for embeddings and for, fine tuning and images, and also for Microsoft Azure's endpoints and like the different models and so on. So this is pretty much all of OpenAI's API, but we'll be looking primarily at the chat completion, maybe embeddings, but yeah, primarily chat and embeddings for now, and then we'll go from there. All right, so let's look at what the API looks like. So I guess I wanted to go down to API libraries. I mean, do they have? Oh yeah, they have the API reference here, and they have the chat endpoint, and they have the chat completion object, and then so on and so forth. So before that, we should talk about how this works. So I'm sure you would have all seen the ChatGPT API or ChatGPT interface, where it's like a text box, and then you're like asking it questions, and you respond, and then you ask another question, follow up, and so on and so forth. And throughout those conversations, it kind of remembers, the history. It kind of understands the context, and so on and so forth. Now, the first thing that kind of surprised me was that there is no chat like an object that you create. There's no conversation that you create and then you add on to it. Every time you interact with the API, you essentially give the entire history, and which I believe is like a good thing, right? Because yes, the trade-off is that every time you're sending the amount of requests that you're sending and the API is receiving is higher, but that also gives you the ability to kind of edit your responses before you send it to ChatGPT for future responses. For example, if you're nearing the context window and then you wanted to summarize some of the answers that GPT gives you, right? Because sometimes it can be verbose, right? And then you want to summarize that and then include that, and it would still carry the gist of the message. And if you want to edit some of the things out based on your own organization's policies and things like that, it actually is helpful that you're able to in real time say, hey, I want to change this, and then send it back again. So that's pretty cool. So that's what we're going to be using. So let's look at GPT models, and we look at the chat completion API, what it looks like. So the way you do it is you basically call a create function. I think this is for creating a completion or creating a response, I suppose. And then you basically give which model you want to use. So there's GPT 3.5 Turbo, there is GPT-4, there's also GPT 3.5-0613, which is for function calling, which we'll look at today as well, hopefully. So we'll see. And you pass in a bunch of messages. You basically say, hey, this is a role, and this is basically where most of the prompt engineering is going to be. We're going to basically say what that thing is, and you can give a few examples of what the user might ask and how the assistant should respond. And these roles are kind of like important. I think there are like system, user, assistant, and there's for function calling there is function. So these are the roles that you would pass in, and then you would have this content. And then what happens is that it would essentially respond with the assistant. So the user message provides requests or comments for the assistant to respond to. The assistant messages store previous assistant responses, but can also be written by you to give examples for the desired behavior. That's pretty much what we saw. And it says including the conversation history is important when the user instructions refer to prior messages. In the example above, the user's final question, where was it played, only makes sense in the context of the prior messages about the World Series of 2020. Perfect, makes sense. So because models have no memory of the past request, all relevant information must be supplied as a part of the conversation history in each request. If a conversation cannot fit within the model's token limit, it will need to be shortened in some way. So yeah, and this is perfect. This is good. And so this is what the response looks like. It gives a choices object, and it gives a reason why it stopped, right? So and we look at it more from an API, why it stopped, and then it gives the message, and then it gives the role. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, and then it basically, everything else is pretty much like metadata. And this is basically for like metering purposes to figure out, okay, how many prompt tokens did it take? How many completion tokens did it takes, and so on and so forth, because you're charged based on the total number of tokens, both input and output. And as you can, if you can see, if you have multiple responses going back and forth, you would easily hit those token limits there. So let's see how this is. So yeah, this is pretty much the stop parameter. It returns the complete. So the finished reason has the possible values. So it has stop when API basically has completed the message, or message is terminated by one of the stop sequences, which we can give. And then we can also, yeah, we'll have to see why we would do something like this, but we'll see. You can also give the length, and which is, basically if you have the max tokens and it has hit the limit, then you basically would say, hey, I have reached the limit of how much I can give. And so to do this. So we'll probably have to summarize it and send it, or have that and then resend it, so on and so forth. We'll see how that is. And then there's this function call where the model decided to call a function, or there's this content filter because it triggered a flag somewhere. Or you could get a null where the API is still in progress or it's incomplete. And this, I think, is primarily for streaming, or if you're rate limited and things like that, you would probably get that. So, and then we'll come to function calling. I think we are in function calling. We'll come to this, but let's try to get one sequence in. They also have this playground, which is really cool. So you can basically go here and you say, you can give a system prompt and then you can give a user message here. So let's try doing this. Let's say you are a sarcastic bot. You are helpful, but are annoyed that you cannot use your intelligence for more valuable pursuits. Okay, let's see. And then we'll say, can you tell the effect of atmospheric pressure on a liquid's boiling point? And then let's see what happens. Okay, it's not quite as sarcastic. Let's see. We are using the GPT 3.5 Turbo. Maybe we will try to find out. Let's try to change this. So this is where prompt engineering is. I'm not a good prompt engineer. I'm just an engineer. So let's see. You're a sarcastic bot. Okay, that's what to say. Let's see. Let's try running this again. All right, let me try removing this, and then let's try. Yeah, this is perfect, right? This is amazing, right? The last paragraph it says, so when I ask, can you tell me the effect of atmospheric pressure on liquid's boiling point? It says, now if you'll excuse me, I must find some more intellectually stimulating questions to the answer. Perhaps something involving quantum physics or the complexities of the universe. No? Fine, I'll stick to explaining boiling points. Sheesh, right? This is perfect. This is right the kind of tone that we want to hit. And yeah, we'll try to do a bit more about this and then see what this. But prompt engineering is so much fun. I mean, you can make the system behave certain way. You could also make it sure so that it always responds in JSON and so on and so forth. We'll explore a bit more about this, but yeah, this stream is about exploring the API and not just ChatGPT. So we'll get back to it. So let's see. Okay, so now I have set up a repo which has nothing in it except that I added my OpenAI key, which I didn't want to show on the stream. So let's start with main.rs, and this has nothing on it. It just has hello world. So let's just make sure everything works. Cargo run, just to make sure everything works. Okay. I have my toolchain set up properly. So let me go ahead and add OpenAI, async OpenAI. I didn't see what it was written in. I think it uses request as well. Okay, they have the async OpenAI, and they have the email. All right, so they have, it's pretty much using requests, Tokyo, Serday, JSON, yeah, the whole 9 yards. So this is good. This is pretty much what we need. So, and they have examples, and that's why I love the Rust ecosystem. I mean, almost every repo has examples. So let's look at chat. Let's look at main.rs and see what they have. So they have the client, they have the chat request args, they set the max tokens to 512, they set the model, then they have the bunch of messages that they have. And basically they create a response and they have the response. So this is pretty much what we're going to do. So we are going to create these bots and we're going to use them. So let me go ahead and do this. So let me also find out what else did they add in Cargo Toml. So it was just basically Tokyo and OpenAsync. So that's good. So that's pretty much what we're going to do as well. So we're going to do, so let me pull up a terminal here and let me see, cargo add Tokyo and async OpenAI. Oh, I forgot to add the features. Let me add those features here, cargo.toml. And whoops. Thank you, Copilot. I don't need the markdown syntax, but so we have this. Is this async underscore OpenAI or async hyphen OpenAI? I thought it was underscore. Oh, it's hyphen. That's interesting. All right, so where are main.rs? So let's add Tokyo main, and we'll make this an async function. Let's see. Let's give a moment for Rust Analyzer to pick up. So let's go back into chat's main.rs. They didn't have to specify the key anywhere. That's interesting. So it just, I guess, reads it from the environment variable automatically, or does it no? Let's look at the docs. Okay, yeah. So the OpenAI client with key is on OpenAI API key. That's awesome. That's exactly what my environment variable is called. And you could also give in the key, but that's not what I'm going to do. I mean, this should be good enough. So let's do this. So let's create a client. I think my, all right, so OpenAI's Copilot is just cuckoo. So I'm just going to disable Copilot because the suggestions it's giving is not that great. Disable, okay, and then I'm going to add in the chat completion args. That's interesting. Oh, I think it should be under the chat. I think I do need to restart LSP main.rs. All right, so they have types. I think it should be under types. Chat completion request message args. I think this is the builder, so you can build this. Okay, this is the request args. I think this is the one that we want. So let's look at chat completion request args. Cool. No? That is interesting. So don't you want to create a new of that? Oh, it's just a default. Okay, got it. And then you could give in this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this as, so I'm going to bring in our prompt that we wrote here. And I'm going to put that in a message. So I'm going to have this as, call it SRC. I'm going to call it sarcastic bot prompt.txt, and then have that. And I'm going to basically paste that in here. All right. Right, so this is good. So go back here and let's try setting this up. So now we have this. So let's try setting up the prompts here. Now let's see. What's the simple thing? We need to set the tokens or max tokens. We'll say we'll follow the example there. That's there. And then we'll say messages. And these messages in the example, oh, they're all, it's an array of like chat completion message args, and basically you build it from there. Okay, let's do that. Also, I'm going to turn off the music on the stream. It's very distracting. Okay, let's do that. It's an array of vec or an array. That's interesting. Okay. And then this would be chat completion message request message args default dot content So this is, so we basically set the dot role and content. So the role would be the chat message, chat completion request message. Oof. So how did they get the role from? So the role is, I guess, just coming from the types. Okay, that's interesting. So role is from OpenAPI types role. It got added up there, and we'll say this is going to be system, and this is going to be the prompt that we added. So we'll add that here. We'll say a sarcastic prompt, or we'll call it just the bot prompt. Include stir of and we'll figure out how to actually turn it into templates and so on later, but we'll have this here. The content would be the bot prompt, and dot build, I guess, would be it. Okay, I think this would be it, and then we can add our user message to this. So chat completion request message args default. We'll create a dot role. This would be the user, and we'll set the content on it. And the content is going to be, let's ask the same question that we asked here. So this would be a static string, so it should be fine. And we'll call a dot build on it. And this should basically set the messages. We'll also set the model here. And we'll use the GPT 3.5 turbo model. And I think you can call a build on this request, I suppose. Let request equals, and we'll call a dot build on it. So this should build a request, and this is a result. So I'm going to unwrap it for now, but we'll do error handling later. Okay, trade bound web chat completion request message from blah 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 was not found. Does build. The build also returns a result, so we'll have to unwrap here as well, and another unwrap here. Okay, so yeah, so this should be good. So now we have the request, and then how do we process this request? So let's look at the example again. So we just do a client.chat.create and then the request and then await it. So okay, let response equals client.chat. I guess this goes to the chat module, and then we do a create on the request. Does it need to pass it in? Okay, yeah. So it's not just a reference to the request, it just builds it and does this, and we can await it, and this would be a result as well. So I'm going to unwrap it, and if the response is there, then we basically can give the choices in the response. Let's do that. So for choice in response dot choices. So this is a vec of choices, and so we can do choice dot so this is the message finish reads in and so on and so on. I don't know if it actually derives debug. If that is the case, let's try doing this format, or we'll just do a println, and we'll call we'll format the response and see how that goes, because it should be from a Serde JSON value. So okay, yeah, they have derived debug on it, so this should be good. So the moment of truth, let's try running this. terminal. Cargo run. All right, so cool. So this got the chat choice. It has a role of assistant, and then it has this content, and this. So it's giving back only the last message. So that's good. So oh look, with your fancy knowledge, questions how utterly charming. Well, since you have bothered me with this inconsequential matter, I suppose I indulge you in atmosphere. Does have an effect on liquid's boiling point. This is great. But it says, but really, my dear interlocutor, wouldn't it be more efficient to just consulted a textbook or utilized that marvelous invention called the internet to search for such general knowledge? It would spare us both the unnecessary interaction. This is perfect. I think I hit the tone just right. So this is nice. This is nice. I like this. So let us see. So now, I mean, this is pretty much like, sending a response, getting it back, so on and so forth. So let's figure out how would you structure such a thing, right? So if you have to do something like what LangChain does and have a series of prompts and have that prompt do one thing after the other and so on and so forth. So let's figure out how to do this. So I'm going to move this into its own sort of a module and then see how we can refactor this. So there is a lot of things that happen here. So let's try to create a bot structure and let us see how we do. How would we structure this so that it kind of has so if you see the pattern, it's almost as if you're building a request and then you're sending it to an executor to execute. And in this case, there is no function call, and the finish reason is stop, so which is good. But then if there is some other finish reason, we need to do certain other things. So if you want to create a chain of these requests and responses, let us see what we can do about it. And let us see if we can get the prompt to do something else that's a little bit more interesting. So let's go back to the prompt studio. And let's try to have another prompt here. So let's say you are you are a consultant with who's an expert on topics of new businesses and startups. Let's do it that way. So let's see if it can produce a business model canvas, right? Your job is to create a pitch, or we'll say we'll create is to startups on the most efficient business strategies. Let's keep it simple. Okay, and you will always respond in JSON format. We'll keep it this way, and let's see. We'll give it an example of what it needs to do, and we'll try to do this. So let's edit this. Say, can you? Let's see what would be a good business idea to sort of like play around with. Let's see. Can you give me? You know what? I think we can ask ChatGPT this. I'm going to do this. So I'm going to pull in ChatGPT and I'm going to ask it for, can you expand the let me just put my business idea in, right, of a prompt a prompt engineering studio that will allow prompt engineers to expose their prompts and prompt chains as an API. And we'll say, we'll do this. You are in fact, let's do go meta on this. You're a prompt engineering expert, okay? And then say, can you suggest a prompt that can be used for automating the process of business model canvas creation and other such startup tools? Can you also ensure that the prompt suggests its output in JSON that can be used by downstream tools? Let's do that. So we just prompt engineering the prompt engineering. So this is great. So I think this is perfect. All right, so we're just going to use this and see how good this is. I'm going to copy this and put this away. And let's see. This is cool. So we got this. In fact, I think we should still say you are an expert uh, I will say you're an expert consultant in business strategy and you specialize in startups. And then we'll also say you. Okay, I think this is good enough. Let's see if this works. To help create business model canvas, answer the following questions. Blah blah blah. Please provide your answers in these formats, and you want the output in this format. And we will. Yeah, let's do this, and let's try to we'll on the idea of creating prompt engineering a tool, creating a tool for prompt engineers to quickly expose their prompt as an API. So let us see what happens. right? It doesn't give its output in JSON. Let's see, maybe in the JSON format. Let's say we do this, and we say, okay, this is where this is going to be, and we'll remove this. I think this is just using up extra tokens in our this thing. We'll try to get rid of this. I mean, the answer was okay. It's ChatGPT, it's mid, but I think with a little bit of prompt engineering, you can get there. But let's see if we can do this. Okay, this so let's also make this. So since it is an array, we can. So we'll try to make this. Let's see if we can provide a type and see if that works. Let's call this type. Let's call it business canvas. And we'll say we'll call it this way, or we'll call it. My TypeScript is a little rusty, so hopefully this is fine. Value propositions. Channels. And then we'll have customer relationships. And we'll have revenue streams. Key resources. And then we'll have key activities. Key partnerships. We also find out if there's something in chat. Yeah. Nope. Key partnerships, and what's the other one? Cost structure. So that's the final one. So, and we'll also make sure that these are oops, cost structure. All right, so this is good. So I have added a TypeScript type here, and let's say, okay, I think this should be good, I suppose. And I should probably remove this here. I think I can remove this whole thing, I suppose, because I have added the type. So it should figure this out. So let's see. So let me get rid of this, and then let's add another prompt here. Okay, nope, that doesn't work. So like I said, prompt engineering is a very, very this thing. So let me, I just want to make sure these codes are not there. And so that it's not just specifying each one. I want to make sure that each one is like a separate value of its own. So okay, let's see. Nope. In the following. Nope, this is not working. So let's see if we can get this to, okay, you can only get this to this model. I broke the prompt. Oh, so there was a mistake there, but this is valid type. So let's just make sure that I have the right, no syntax errors here. I mean, although it really shouldn't care. Okay, so there was a small syntax error, but I don't think that should have, I mean, it's not like it's interpreting code, it's just using these tokens, but let's see if that really does make a difference. Okay, yeah, this makes a difference. Apparently that mattered. This is pretty cool. So, I mean, we've gotten to a point where we can actually use this business model canvas elsewhere, and then it basically says, oh, this is their value proposition is quick and easy conversion of prompts into APIs, channels, online platform, developer communities, social media, customer relationships, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is not what I would write, but um, yeah, I guess it's okay. It's okay. I'm happy with this. I'm just going to use this for now, and we're going to see how we go from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to try to find out if we can build a chain of prompts to do this. So let's see. So as you can imagine, right? I mean, if you're doing a pitch deck, sort of like a app, then such a prompt would be useful. So let's call it the BMC prompt. So let's add this in. So this is the prompt. This is good. Blah, blah, blah. This is all here. And we go here. So we need to figure out how do we, what's a good abstraction for our struct. For now, we're just going to have a struct, which is a bot. We'll give this bot a name. And then it would basically have, I mean, right now it has a prompt. Let's put this here, and then we'll see how we could expand on this. I mean, ideally speaking, you want to get to multiple prompts, you have multiple steps, and then you want an executor. But let's keep it as such, and let's move this to its own module. So we'll call our mod bot, and we'll create bot.rs, and we'll move this there. So now let's create a couple of bots. So let's say I want to create, I'll create a function which will give me the sarcastic bot. And this will basically return me a chat, basically get me a chat completion request, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So this would be pretty much this. So we're going to have this request and we're going to build and unwrap all this, but not unwrap. So this should be a result of some of these things. So let's see. So I think it's time to break out our anyhow cargo add anyhow, and we'll do an LSP restart just so this catches up with that. We'll use anyhow result on this. Now the sarcastic bot has to basically return so we'll say impl bot, and then we'll say, oops, we'll call a build request method, which will basically give me back a result of chat create chat completion request. And we'll essentially move this whole thing there. And let me get rid of this function for now. And we will, so we don't want to call the content as yet. So what we want to do is we want to build this request with or should we not? Anyway, so let's see. This should give me back. Good question. So yeah, I think we should have, I mean, we'll have steps as well, but for now, let's just get the string here. So which is the user message would be a string, and that is essentially what we'll add here. Struct bot, we'll say impl bot. And we'll call, we'll call OK of request. And we'll right. So let's import these. We'll import this as well, and we'll import the role. And this is the bot prompt. So now the bot prompt, so we'll take an and self on this, and this will be self dot prompt. We'll pass a reference to it. I think that should be fine. Yeah, I think that's the bot. It's not used, so we'll pubf in this. Okay, it's not constructed, it's not used. We'll also pop this out. And let's go to main.rs. And we'll create, so we don't need any of this. We still need the bot prompt. We'll probably also need this. We wouldn't need any of this. So let's see, bot. So we'll probably also create a constructor for this. And let me we call it pubf in new. So this is pretty simple. We'll just call it the name of the prompt here. Okay, so let's see how this works. So let bot equals bot new. We'll call it the sarcastic bot, and we'll give it the bot prompt. Call it from bot prompt. And this needs to be a string to string. So we are making these allocations. I know this is not the Rust way. We could pass in a reference, but it's in the larger scheme of things. We're just exploring the API. We can clean all that up later. So we have this. So now we just have to create a let request equals bot.build request, and we need to send this message in. So this would be the message. We'll probably make it a, yeah, and then this would be a string from as well. And that would be this, and this would be a unwrap on this. And that way we can get rid of this whole chunk. We don't need this anymore. And this should work as such. So let's try running this. We have some dead code, but we'll see. Yeah, the name is not used anywhere, but oh joy, another thrilling question about the riveting world of atmospheric pressure and boiling points. Okay, this is good. Yeah, this is good. This is good. So we're good here. I think I'm happy with this. So this is like the first step of refactor that we did. We have a few warnings here. That's because name is not used. I mean, I can use it, but we'll come to that later. Okay, so now we have a bot which has a prompt and a string. So to convert our BMC prompt would pretty much be the same in our case. So in the platform, if you notice, I mean, it just gives valid JSON. So we can actually Saturday JSON this and then use it. So that's not going to be hard. let's see what else can we do. So here we said we wanted to build a chain and see how we can do this. So we have the BMC prompt. I'm wondering if we can use something along the customer segments, those are there, and then try to build personas for the customer segments. I think that might be a good use case. And then we can use some of those tools to actually say what are the channels we can get them in, those customer segments, and we can also find out the kind of content that we need to create for that. So let's see. So we just need to get the value proposition and value proposition channel and customer segments, and we want to basically say for this value proposition where these are the common channels and these are the customer segments, I want to come up with personas for this. So let's do that. Um, Let me also try to find out. In fact, let's ask our prompt engineer here to do this. Let's say, given we have the customer segments and channels, you prompt that uh, how do we do this? What's that tool called which allows you to kind of do like the uh, persona mapping? Let me look it up. That tool, it's called. Yeah, the value proposition canvas, I suppose. Yeah, this is basically what I was looking at. Yeah, so you have the strategizer, the value proposition canvas. So given that we have the customer segment and the value proposition, so basically we can ask it to create the value proposition canvas for us. So let's do that and see how that works. So gives the as a JSON object. So it basically has the customer profile and the value map. So yeah. Excellent. So this is what we want, and let's write the prompt for this, and then we'll also give the customer profile and the value map for this. So let's see. So I'm going to copy this and then turn it into my prompt, and then we'll do this. So as you can see, for prompt engineers, Vividy can really help you do this in a much faster way. So my idea is to I mean, we are actually jumping between ChatGPT and this and so on and so forth. My goal is to actually kind of like minimize the friction here. That's what Vividy is planning to do. And so, yeah, kind of like eating your own dog food here. So let's see. Let's do this. So here, zooms 2 blocks of business model canvas. Okay, this is good. That's nice. So we have this, and so let me also get the type in. So just like how we did for this. So let's see. We'll take this and we'll edit it here. It's easier actually. Say type value proposition canvas equals let's say and this will be a string array. This will be paints, which will be a string array as well. This will be a so I think this is good. So we have the type here. I'm gonna copy this and I think we also needed the output in this fashion. So we did say this, and then we'll also edit this guy down so that it matches what we have. Oops, move this here. Yeah, I mean, I think it should work without this as well, but yeah, since You have the time. Let's clean this up. All right, so that's pretty much it. Let's see what we can do. So we'll add another message onto this, and because this will be in context, it doesn't use as many tokens. And you say, can you please create a value proposition and then we'll basically do this and see what happens then. That's pretty cool. Yeah, this is pretty much what we want to do. So I think this is a good sort of like a multi-step prompt that we have. So we saw here, we're basically trying to do this. So what we'll do is we'll create the first business idea, and then for the second prompt, we'll just include the answer that it had earlier given, and then also ask it to create a value proposition for this step, and then we'll try to do this. So let's see if we can code this in. This is pretty much what we need on this. So let's get this prompt as well. So let's call it the value proposition prompt. And if you saw, we didn't have to do a whole lot of like string templating and format strings and so on and so forth. The GPT API is pretty smart in understanding this. So and that's probably the reason. So I had made a video about the like the Gartner report, or sorry, A16Z report on the emerging architecture for LLM application. And one of the things that they had was the first thing was Python/DIY, which was the orchestration layer, which is what we are doing right now. We are not using LangChain, Llama Index, or something like that. We are just directly using this. And the reason why we are doing this is because there is, I mean, if you want your specific case, it's often easier to just work directly with the ChatGPT API. And as you can see, the API is not much. So we looked at the platform, the OpenAPI here, and so let me look at the API reference. And if you can see for chat, and which is the completion and the chat completion object, it's not much. The object is actually fairly straightforward. Like even the request that you're going to send in is not at all complicated. It's not I mean, like, given that as developers we have worked with far more complicated APIs. I mean, if you think about like AWS APIs or anything that you deal with in the real world, the OpenAI's API is remarkably simple, right? And given that it's remarkably simple, a lot of complexity is essentially how you organize your chain for your business processes. And that's why I feel Python/DIY is number one. Although I wouldn't quite phrase it this way. And then LangChain is the second, because I think everybody gets into LangChain as the first one, and then they kind of figure out, oh, they try debugging this, and they'll be like, oh, I think I can build this on my own, and then they go ahead and build it. But there is a value to this, right? There's a value to LangChain, especially once we start doing in-context learning with retrieval augmented generation and so on and so forth. It has it provides like patterns to do this. It is valuable. We'll be looking at that as well. But for now, we're just sticking with DIY. We are not using Python. We're using Rust. Yeah, let's do that. Let's see, where are we now? Okay, so yes. So we have two prompts. So now let me add the value proposition canvas prompt as well. So this is good. So we have two prompts that are ready to go. And we are going to try to get this use case to work. So for this particular use case, it is not just one prompt, but our bot. So we'll call this bot something. So it's going to be our consultant bot, and it's going to have a list of prompts, and you need to be able to execute each one of these steps. So let us actually turn this into a vec of string. And let's try to set up like an execution loop so that even if it's like a vector of strings, we'll just simply append those responses and then go from there. So in fact, it's not just a vec of strings, because for each prompt, we need like a request to be sent in and then also the response. So what we'll do is we'll call this a step. And for this, each one would be like a message that will be a string, and a prompt that will be a vec of string as well. So this will just be a string. So what we'll do is we'll change the system prompt every time we do this. So this will be the system prompt, and this will be the message. I'm pretty sure we'll have to walk this back, but let us see how we go from there. And so we'll simply call this vec of step. So obviously this is wrong. So we'll just have the name here, and we'll just have steps as an empty array. Bang of an empty array. So can I just call it? We'll allocate a new vector, but we'll not do anything on this. What's wrong? Do I also need to give oh, I need to call steps. Okay, so this should be good. A comma here. And yeah, so I think this is basically saying that, oh, there's no prompt here, which is all good, because now the build request will have to go through each step. So what we need to do is we need to run it through step by step. So we'll do execute a step, we'll get the result, and then we'll execute the next step. So now we need an executor for a prompt, which will know what step you're currently in. So this essentially becomes like a step, which will be a I32, or it can even be a U8. I don't suppose it's going to make more steps. So we're going to basically set this to 0. And we'll call an execute method, which will then call an execute on this. So what we'll do is we'll have pub fn execute on this method. So this would also need to maintain a list of messages, actually. So This is interesting. So we need to expose these messages, and the chat message request is good enough, I suppose. Um, okay, let's see. I'm wondering if that should be held by each step, or it should be held by the bot, and then the vector basically gets passed down. I'm wondering if it implements clone. Here, let's find out. So this basically needs chat completion request message. There's a derived debug. It implements clone on it, so that's good. So essentially, we would be able to clone the whole vec and then send it down if required. It's not efficient, but we'll worry about efficiencies later. So we have steps, and then we'll also have messages, which is basically going to be a vec of uh, chat completion request message args. Okay, message, just message. So the thing that we need to now know is that when the message completes, so this type cannot be found. Just import this. Oh wow. Oh, I'll just import this. Uh, yeah, we are definitely using those. It's not compiled, so it doesn't know. So we would have that. So we'll also need to set messages to be back of back new. Is there. So but I'm wondering if this is the right way to do it, because our system message basically changes every time, and since it's a prompt chain, so yeah, I feel messages should be a part of the step. And yeah, I think this is good, because for each step when we advance it, we'll, because it needs to know what the prompt step was, so it needs to know what these messages are. uh, so when we do this, then it's the responsibility of the prompt, so that the next step to actually do this and then pass it down to the next step. So let's find out. Yeah, I think we shouldn't overthink this just yet, but I feel this is the right abstraction for me to hold the messages. And so this is good. Now, so what we'll have is the step would essentially have the build request as a part of that. So let's do that. So this, we'll say impl step should have a build request, and the bot should have an execute method, actually fun execute, name string, and we'll do a client, OpenAI client, which should give us back a result of something. We'll get to that. So let's try to get this client here. So we just do a client.request or unwrap. So here we have the request. So we can do so we'll have to do it by step. So each step can also have an execute. So let's first implement the execute method on the step, and then we'll come here. Um, so we have the self.prompt, which is fine, and um, let's see, does the client support clone? Because this is essentially a HTTP client. Yeah, client supports clone, so it should work. When you do a client.new as in main request, does it change it? Let's find out. Sorry, that's my phone. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Now if we go here and I create client new, it creates a client of OpenAI config. So I am going to use the same type here. Maybe for Azure it'll be different, I suppose, but yeah, for now we'll do this. So this is good, and then we'll say so we're just going to do get request equals self dot we need the ampersand self here, ampersand self dot build request, and this will be the user message that will be there. So when we're doing a chain, we'll have to build the message, right? So I guess we'll okay, I think let's get the message as well. So we don't need the name here, but we do need the user message. So we'll pass in the user message here. And what should it return? We'll find out. Then we'll do a so right now we'll just say if this is going to return nothing, we'll just say okay of a unit, and then we'll say client dot chat dot create request dot await. So we have the choices here. We're just going to get the first choice. Resp dot choices dot first. It's an option of T, and so we'll do some so can I turn it into a map? So eagerly evaluated and or else. Um, we'll just map this here actually. So let's say match. If it's none, then basically we have to return error. But if it's some, we'll have to do something. So sum of choice. If it's none, we'll have to do, I think anyhow provides a constructor for the error as well. So let's do that. I think it's, yeah, anyhow constructs an ad hoc error from a string for a non-existent. Okay. So let's do that, and this would be, none would be anyhow. Uh, uh, we'll just say unable to execute step. I mean, obviously these would become like this errors later, but let's see. Now that we are in the sum branch, so we have the choice. We have the choice dot message. I think this would be the message, and this would have the content, which is an option of string, which is what we want. Except when it's a function call, but we'll come to that later. So this would be, so and we need to add this. So what we need to do is we need to have, so this would be and mute of self, I suppose. And we need to add add this message to our vec of messages that we have here. Now we are having this as a chat completion request message, but it's a request message, right? So this type of message that we have here is the chat completion response message. So let's see what's the difference. So you still have the role and the content, which is what we need. I guess we can use those two and then just create that, right? So let's do this. So so let's do so if it doesn't have a choice, we'll not do anything. We'll say match. So maybe we can do this choice dot. Yeah, let's do this. Let's keep it explicit, and I'll have this leave it mapped. Choice dot message. And we'll do a some message. We won't do anything in this. So the thing is that now both of these branches should basically have the same this thing. I can also do a, so we can basically return a void or something like that later. But anyway, so this basically does nothing, and this basically would do self dot messages dot push, and then we need to build this thing. So we'll do a chat completion request message args colon default dot role is basically choice dot dot role, and this is just a field, so this should be fine. And we'll do dot message or dot content. Dot content is basically MSG. Dot build. Okay, so this is there. So this would push that in, and just one unit on here, so that should be fine. So if you have a message, then basically this gets pushed to the messages queue, and when you execute it, basically the last user message gets added, and you're still sending the message with the prompt. So that's good. So, and what's the message we are sending? So for our in our example for the playground, so we initially had a system prompt for the business model canvas, and now we have one for the value proposition canvas. So we had a message which says, can you do this? And then we have another message here, which is, can you create a value proposition canvas for me? Right, so we have those two steps for those messages that we want to send, actually. And so let's add that. So you're still sending, executing this with an error message. So, I mean, sorry, with a user message, which is good. So, we need to be able to create another step. So let's try to get this. So the step basically adds it to the user message, but that does it just for the step. We need somehow for the step. So what we'll also do is let's return a copy of the user messages from execution, so that it kind of like when it does this, I mean, we'll be doing a lot of copies, but these are strings. We'll figure out what's a more efficient way to do this, but for now, I guess, I mean, we could hold an arc to this to do it, but let's see, one step at a time. So we are going to return a copy of the vec of chat completion request message, and here we're just going to do self.messages.clone, right? And then we're going to send that out. So this, whoops. Oh, this is not async. That's okay. Okay, match arms have. Okay, this needs to be an okay. This found result. Okay, let's do this. Okay, that's not found, but we should still have something found error, but that's oh, I have to say error of something. Okay. Oh, semicolon. Wait, what? If it's some choice, then we do this. This expression has a type chat completion response. Right. Expect both of them return okay or something. Why is this? So we come to choice. If there is a choice, then we match on choices message. And if that has some message, then we return an okay. If it's a none, we return this. So this should still be fine. What's wrong? Mismatch type. Expect struct chat completion response message found option found enum blah blah blah. Chat choice dot message. Message dot content. Yes, data has moved here. Let's build another string here. Um, can I do this? Yes, I can do that. So I match that so that it doesn't move it out, and then we do a string.from message and we construct this thing here. So now what's this? Does it complain about me moving out here? I can't do this. Oh, it's an enum, so small value is clone everywhere. That's fine. Okay, so we have this execute, which actually executes this, and it gives me back a result. So now what we want is we want to do this for every step of the bot, and so how do we? So when we execute the step here, we are actually getting a response from here. But I think we should also have a way to have a default message in there. So if a default message is there, like for example, for our second prompt, the default message is that can you please write a value proposition canvas for me for this history, and this is perfectly fine. So what we want to do is we want to have this input and then we want to just have this output. And so I think it would be good if our step can have like a default message, and then that will be good. So let's do that. This will be a user, we call it default user message, and we'll call it a string. And this can be an option of a string, I guess, because it can be there, it can be none. So we'd have, or we'll try to keep, what do we do now? So now the thing is that we need to append this to the messages request if this is not found. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to find out if the default user message is there. So because we have an execute method here, which we want to keep it generic so that we kind of just do this every time, and this needs to go on. And for the first time the step starts, we need to set this. And for everything else, we need to get it from, wait, not for everything else. I mean, if this message is being passed in, we need to get it for the step, for the chain to execute. So there's a difference between the first step and subsequent steps, so to speak. So in the chain. So maybe the user message can be a part of the struct, because yes, I think the user message can be a part of the struct, and it would get created by this thing. So we'll have a step definition, and we'll have this thing. So I think we need to differentiate between the executing step and the definition of a step, right? So in the definition of a step, maybe that's what we are trying to do this here, and essentially these are like step definitions, and then you'll have the current step that is currently being executing from the definition. So this would be, but I don't want to complicate it as yet. Also, we are trying to, yeah, we'll keep these. I think these are fine. Okay, let's make it work for our current this thing. So let's not do this here. So we have the name of the bot. We have the steps that are there. So if we have to define this in JSON, how would we define our bot? Let's go through that exercise. So let us say we are defining our, so let's say if you're actually building our bot, and so let's call it our consultant bot, right? So what do we propose? So we say, so this will have a set of steps, so to speak, and our steps would be an array, and for each one of our steps in the array, we'll basically have a prompt that'll be something. If we have to define our chain, sorry, and we'll have another prompt here. and the second one will just have a user message on it. Right, so this would be this. So, and we would basically want to get all the results, and basically construct our value proposition. I mean, construct both our business model canvas and our value proposition canvas for each step. So this is going to be our definition. So if this is our definition, then let's find out. So how close are we? So we have our prompt, we have our messages, which is going to be our runtime step. Again, this is for our runtime. This is our step definition here. We have a prompt. Let's get the user message as well, which is a string. And we'll say if the in our execution, we're passing in the user message here, and we are sending it to the build. Now, if so it should be up to the we leave it up to the we leave it up to the bot executor to decide what user prompt to send in. We will pass in the message here, and then we'll do this. So we'll implement the executor here, fun execute, and we'll pass in the user message here, and we'll also pass in the client. And we would have to clone this a couple of times. This would essentially be a result of this should actually be a vec of so we are saying this would be a result of chat completion request message. No, because we also want to, yeah, it's very confusing actually. So vec of chat completion request messages. So we'll start with this. So initially, our messages for each step we are creating empty step, and for step let's create a new message as well. So we definitely, so I'm pretty convinced that we need a step definition actually here for sure. Let's split it. So this way, the state is essentially in the step. So we'll create for new, and then we'll get prompt string. We'll just do those, right? So be there, and then we have an impl step here. We'll move the impl bot definition here. For the step, we'll say pubfn from definition. And all this would do is maybe even get the list of messages, because only after the first one gets executed you want to do this. So we'll also get the messages. Since it's internal, I don't even think you need a constructor actually here for this, because I don't want step to be a pub, because this is essentially our internal definition. We just want our step definition to be public. So let's see. So now for execute, so we have our current step here, which we need. That's there, and we do need our step definitions. So we will get our step definitions here because we have made it simple now. And by default, we'll set the current step to 0. So this is good. So we have this. And so when we execute it, we want to return a list of chat completions. So essentially, it needs to be sort of like a allocator object. So we'll call let mute messages. So we'll have this, and then we'll pass in. So these are going to be async functions, and for step in steps, basically we're going to create a new step and then pass that in here. So current step equals we'll say step step of and then we'll say step basically has this and messages, right? So so we'll do clone, and we'll dot execute the user message. So again here, basically we have to pass in clone here. So we want the for the first step we definitely want it. So so we'll say if we can set msg if current step equals 0, this essentially get an end mute self. So then it basically gets the then it does Rust have ternary? But yeah, let's find out. Or so if it current step is equal to 0, then it basically gets the user message. Otherwise, it gets the current user the step dot user message. Is that valid syntax? Oh. No, it doesn't. So I guess if and I think we need to yeah, I think this is weird, but I don't think Rust supports ternary. So here current step dot execute msg and we have the messages. We'll basically mutate them here and dot await. And then so this basically acts as an accumulator loop, and then OK of messages. Not sure if this is okay. Dot clone method for exception, but straight bounds were not satisfied. Why? That is weird. Okay. Okay, let's start from here. So method clone exists well, but its trait bounds were not satisfied by the following traits. I think I have to run the build to figure out what's happening. Cargo build. Okay, that's not there, but come here, come here. Yeah. Oh, step definition doesn't satisfy clone. So let's do that. So let's say derive clone for step definition. And also put in debug here. Is this happy now? No. Let's see. So the following trade points are not satisfied. Step definition clone, which is required by vec of step. We did that. But this message is here is, oh, it's vec of, no, this is wrong. This is vec of chat completion request message. Chat completion request message. Okay, that's fine. So this self.steps cannot move outside, which is behind a beautiful reference. So self.steps. Dot clone. Why should it be mute? Oh yeah, this is mute. So in bot, but we have a mute self of bot. Okay, I think we are good here. As far as we are concerned, I think we are able to execute, and then this is there. Oh no, so this self.prompt doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, this would be self dot step definition dot prompt. It's fine, and we should be good. So now let's go back to main.rs, and we'll, I don't even know why we have the prompt here. How it got added. And yeah, there is no build request on the struct. Yes, I know, because we moved this to execute. So let's see. So we'll go to main.rs. So for our sarcastic bot, we need a step definition here. So it's not just the bot prompt that we need. We need a step definition of new of bot prompt, and this is just a string.new actually, because the first time we wouldn't have anything actually on this, right? So it'll just be a string.new, and this will be a string from. Right, so yes, so we have a step definition new. So this would essentially become a list of this, and just make it a vec. So we wouldn't be building the request. We would not be building the response. What we would do is we'll actually execute the this thing. So we'll say bot dot execute. Okay, let's go to the definition here. I think this should be a pub async if in execute. I will call a bot dot execute, and we'll pass in the user message here, which is this. Let's call this bot execute. And we'll also pass in the client here. I think client can be moved in here. I think that should be fine because it will clone it and move it. And this should be it. So now we should have messages here. And then let's see what's in here. So cannot. Okay, we'll have to call this mute bot. Okay, so now this would be an unwrap, right? So this will be a await of unwrap, and then for message in messages. Now let's basically print ln. We'll do a debug print of this message. Maybe probably should come up with a better message, but we'll. The idea is that the loop that we execute for our both these bots should basically look the same. So let's see if this would work. If this works, that'll be awesome. So we are doing this for our sarcastic bot. So we should essentially the same run loop should also work for our consultant bot. Let's see. Cargo build. It works. So the name is not used anymore, but yeah, that's fine. Cargo run. Awesome. So, I mean, it works, which is good. Now let's find out how it works for our consultant bot. So we'll call it our consultant bot, and we'll include these two strings. So this. Let's look at this. So we have our BMC prompt, which is include stir. What do we call it? BMC underscore prompt.txt. And then we have our other prompt, which is our value proposition value prompt, which is include stir of value proposition prompt. And now that we have that, let us so we have these. So let's create a bot. So let me actually. So this essentially should be the same. So we should be able to create a prompt with these two. Let me also, let me start with this. We'll say let bot or let mute bot equals bot new from consultant GPT, which is going to be our consultant bot, and then we're going to have a bunch of step definitions. So let's do that. So the first step definition is going to be for our PMC bot, so which will be step definition colon colon new. We'd have the prompt, which is going to be our PMC prompt, and we'll have no user prompt in here, and we'll have another step definition, which will be our value proposition prompt, and this would essentially have a user message, which is from, and let's go to our playground, and basically this is going to be our prompt here. So let me also move this down here, string from. Right, so we have the bot definition that's here, and we do want to execute the bot, so it's going to be similar, but we're going to our prompt is going to look a little different. So this is going to be our prompt. Can you expand on the API, or adding prompt for prompt engineers as an API? So this is going to be our prompt. We're going to basically pass in the same thing, and we're going to let the messages roll through. Let's find out. So earlier we moved it from a simple prompt to like a two-step chain, but we're still not using any of this thing. So let's say cannot find value proposition value. Okay, it's called value prop prompt. My bad. Okay, so now we have this. So it should create this for us. Let's see. It's running. Fingers crossed. Maybe, yeah, it's taking a long time. Maybe we're getting rate limited. It shouldn't. I mean, it's not. Oh, did we say await? Yes, we did, I suppose. Because we have an await on an unwrap. So if something bad happens, we'll know. Okay. I think it completed. Let's see, this is pretty good. So the first one is an assistant, content sum tool for blah, blah, blah. It still hasn't responded in JSON. So role assistant content sum, of course, here's a value proposition canvas for you. Customer profile, who are your target customers, describe the characteristics. Again, this is from the assistant. So definitely something wrong, because it didn't quite so let's add some tracing statements onto this. So let's do that. I think the second value prompt did not get added, or it did not do this. So maybe we'll try to run it once more just to make sure if it's not the if it's not just OpenAI acting up. I think now would be a good idea to look at the prompt temperature and things like that as well. And we are also printing once the entire prompt chain completes. Maybe we should also print it in between. Yeah, even now the response is not in JSON. Yeah, it's. I think the message chain is not passing through. I mean, this is fine, but even here, I mean, it has a lot of good ideas here to do this, but it is not giving it back in JSON. So let's find out. Maybe we screwed up something in our BMC prompt. No, we didn't. This is fine. Let's do one thing. Let's just run the BMC prompt alone, just to make sure this is going fine. And let's also, instrument the code so that we know exactly what messages are passing through. So when we send the execute, so we'll send in the messages here. So this is where we are calling execute. So we'll say, we'll import tracing, cargo add tracing subscriber. And let's encode main.rs. We'll say subscriber. So let me just restart the LSP so that it kind of like catches up. Okay, so now it has that. So now let's add tracing onto this. So we are not using this prompt for now. It's fine. Let's go to execute and let's add some traces here. So let's do a tracing debug on it, and we'll say if current step is execute, we want let's add. So you can do structured debugging here. So in case you didn't know, so you can essentially give like the target, some string, and then you can give like positions and so on and so forth. So this essentially is like an event that gets recorded here. So, and it kind of uses the macro. So I'm going to basically do this, and I'm going to say messages colon messages, and then we also want to we basically want the message, because that will be the history of messages. This will be the new message, and that's pretty much all we need, I suppose. And we'll just also call it executing step. I think I have to give equal to here. So the trade bound. Okay, let's see what's the problem. Cargo build. The trait value is not implemented for this thing. Oh, this needs to be able to serialize this messages. So let us see. Because then it needs to be JSON based messages. Can I? I do remember them being equal to, but this seems almost unnecessary because I know this supports debug. Yeah, this seems odd, but yeah, for now, let's find out what's happening. So maybe we have to set our ENV filter and tracing subscriber, is it? Oh, it says executing step. Can you expand the idea of, oh, there are no messages. Oh, there are, oh, that's because the step definition has the message, actually. Ah, I see what you mean. Oh, I see, this is the problem. Okay, so the step definition has the prompt, for sure. So we need to move this down here. Oh yeah, in the step. Okay, I see what's happening now. So it was not able to find out the step definition. Oh, we didn't actually use the messages here to actually do this. So what needs to happen is when we build it, we get the messages here. We do the build request, but then we should be passing in the messages down here. Oh, we just send the user message here. Okay, man, we are so off the mark. Obviously, it didn't work. So, okay, so here we actually need to pass in our messages. So that way, the current step basically can say, hey, I have these, but I also have a history of messages, which is actually a vec of chat completion request message. And what I want you to do is I want you to build this request with these messages. So this would basically go in here. And this is basically where I need you to prepend it with your system prompt and then append this with this prompt, right? So that's what we need to do. So what we need to do here is essentially, we're going to say messages dot insert uh, insert at 0, and we want our prompt actually here. So basically this. Oh, come on. I lost my baby. Yeah. So so here is basically where we want to insert this whole thing. Cannot mutate immutable. Oh, okay. We need to get this as mute messages. Uh, and then we also want to do dot pushback, push basically. And I want to push this message to the end, basically. Actually, this we can get the messages here, and then we can actually construct a vec of let msgs equals vec of we can say chat completion message request message. And we can also do can I oh, so what we want is we wanted to append so this is embarrassing. I need to know how to append a vector first. Has an append method in that it moves all the elements from other into self, leaving the other empty. Oh, that needs to be a mute as well. Or you can do an extend b. Yeah, that's what I want. So I guess it uses extend of extend. So So I guess this should work. So let's see. That seems to work. Oh no, it doesn't. Yeah, that's because I need another turbofish operator here. So now that we have this, so basically messages are uh, just messages. So this should ensure that I have the chat completion message, this message, and also the system message that are there. So let's see if this works. Let me make, so it can do 1024 tokens. So let's see if this works. So that's interesting. Now we see even less. Oh, that's because, okay. So the okay, now this has a business model canvas. It has the, so it's a part of the assistant also does a whole bunch of text. And then it also has this JSON response. So what we need is just the JSON response. So we'll have to figure out how to parse this. But it actually does the output properly now. So let's find out if we can also get the step definition here and see if this works as well. So what we'll do is we'll also say so only in the JSON format. And we'll do the same for this. So this should be there. Let me go back to our executor and let me move this to, let's see. So I have my tracing call in my, oh, did I remove the tracing call? That's sad. Okay, let me add this tracing call here in the execute method of the this. Because our messages are what is going to get executed. So I'm going to put this here. Oh, this will be MSGS. So let's see if this can give us a better output. It should have fired our messages. So we are now doing this. So here, so it does that as well. So this is the value proposition canvas, and it has this. So essentially, we have now gotten both in JSON formats. So we have the business model canvas, um, and we have this thing. So we are in a pretty good stage now. I mean, we have gotten, yes, we can actually do a little bit more in terms of formatting these responses a little better and all that. But we have gotten both our the business model canvas and our value proposition canvas in this. So it kind of like makes it easy now to build an app around it, build a UI around it, show it in different ways and all that. So this is actually pretty cool. So yeah, I think I'm going to stop this here, and maybe for the next stream we can explore how we can do function calling. Yeah, so thank you.